Welcome back to the details. The African leaders met in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa as the 36th African Union Annual Summit kicked off on Saturday. The two-day African Union meeting is aiming to jumpstart a faltering trade deal launched in 2020. Details.
African leaders met in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa as the 36th African Union Annual Summit kicked off on Saturday. The two-day African Union meeting is aiming to jumpstart a faltering trade deal launched in 2020, whilst also focusing on the continent's most pressing challenges, including climate change, security and food security. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement is billed as the biggest in the world in terms of population, gathering 54 out of 55 African countries, with Eritrea the only holdout. Comoros President Azali Assoumani took over the one-year rotating AU chairmanship from Senegal's Macky Sall. Addressing the AU summit, UN Chief Antonio Guterres called for Africa to take action for peace to combat rising violence as the continent's leaders held their annual summit in Addis Ababa. Africa is reeling from a record drought in the Horn of Africa and deadly violence in Sahel region and the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, with the African Union meeting aimed to address these issues and jumpstart the Free Trade Pact. Meanwhile, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told the gathering that he was deeply concerned about the recent rise in violence by armed groups in eastern DRC. The UN Secretary General also warned that the mechanisms for peace were faltering and urged the bloc to continue to battle for peace. Guterres met with several African leaders, including the Rwandan President Paul Kagame, to discuss, in particular, the crisis in the Congo.
Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abul Ghait, participated on Saturday in the African Union Annual Summit, which is held for 2 days in Addis Ababa, the Ethiopian capital. During the inaugural session, Abul Ghait delivered a speech in which he stressed on the importance of promoting cooperation level between the Arab and African worlds. Details.
Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abul Ghait, addressed on Saturday the African Union Annual Summit, stressing the Arab keenness to promote cooperation levels with the African continent in light of implementing a mega project to improve Arab-African free trade zones within the plan of the joint Arab-African business. In his word before the attendees, Abul Ghait criticized the international community for abandoning its responsibilities to establish a two-state solution, with Israeli brutality to force Palestinians to leave their homelands. He also pointed out that the situation in Libya represents a top priority for all partners in the Arab and African countries, calling on all Libyan parties to resort to a peaceful political solution in order to reach a stage of political stability that preserves the country's unity and sovereignty and ends the presence of militias and foreign forces. Abul Ghait expressed his aspiration to exert efforts to support the Comoros' stability and enhance plans for political and economic developments launched by the country's president. The Secretary General affirmed the Arab League's commitment to stand by Sudan to complete the transitional period through the framework agreement that was signed in December 2022. He also weighed the participation of the African Union in sponsoring effective mediation processes through the tripartite working mechanism. Abul Ghait called for strengthening cooperation among Arab countries to support Somalia in its fight against terrorism, consolidate foundations of security and stability, and confront the devastating effects of the drought.